On today's podcast, we have a lot of football. The Chiefs win in San Francisco. Detroit's game-winning field goal. Same thing for Green Bay. A decision to quarterback for Pittsburgh. We'll do that and my top 12 rankings. We'll get into Georgia, Texas deep dive with McShay and some other stuff around college. And then his thoughts on the Darnold story and Goff, and then how this Chiefs defense has been built. Shaving tips. If you're shaving your chest, we didn't have great answers for you last week. We have an expert and more on life advice. Week 7, let's start in San Francisco. Kansas City gets the win, 28-18. And you know that I love Mahomes. I appreciate it so much. I have so much fun watching him. This is not an original thought. It doesn't mean, hey, you know whose podcast is really good? Is that guy that likes Mahomes. But if I didn't love Mahomes, I can't imagine what Sundays would be like. It'd be the worst. I mean, especially if you're another fan of a team in the AFC West, like watch your team. But Chargers defense is awesome this year. But I want to dig into what's happening with the Chiefs to end this 6-0 record, because you're watching them play every week and being like, they won again? Like, what? Mahomes hasn't even been great this season, and they still just beat everybody? And we'll get to the San Francisco part about this a little bit here in the end. So Mahomes is 16-27 on the day for 154 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. First pick, definitely not his fault, tip ball. Second pick, receiver falls down. You can make an argument that maybe the throw, but he's expecting the wide receiver to beat a defensive back on the ball anyway. So, we don't have to run into all of his interceptions, which, there's certain times with guys that are really good where I'm like, well, even if he had the pick, like those are different. All interceptions are not created equally, right? He does run one in, trucking Mustafa at the goal line, who, if you've watched Mustafa play, is just a guy who wants collisions. Like, I don't know if anybody's in Rodney Harrison's class where the play would be over and he would just smash into the back of somebody, sometimes his own teammate, when the pile, like the whistle had been blown and Harrison's like, I'll just hit somebody. Mustafa's that kind of guy. Mustafa had a collision with Xavier Worthy where it looked like a car crash. And aside, with the receiver injuries that the Chiefs are dealing with, I don't know that I'd want Worthy on these end arounds. They look great. He's maybe faster than everybody else out on the field, but because he's slight and he gets going so fast, one block that's missed and they collide, like I don't even know if it's worth the 2 looks and maybe the 15. I know he broke the really big one in the first game, but I'd be worried about keeping him healthy because of his build on some of these. So you have Mahomes truck that dude at the goal line and run one in. But these aren't even vintage Mahomes performances, and they're still undefeated. Yes, a lot of it is the defense. They're really good. Some of the stuff isn't necessarily off the charts. And it's not like he's running it more. We can sit here and pretend that he's just not. It was his first rushing touchdown in 2 years in the regular season. The other thing I've been looking at with Mahomes, too, and we know that, post Tyreek Hill, there was like, okay, well, they're not going to have the deep shot and take everything off, and he's going to have to throw underneath. Okay, no problem. I'll just do that. All right, everybody's hurt. No problem. I'll just do that. The earlier years of having to probably be more aggressive and take more shots because the defense wasn't as good. No problem. That's fine. And now he has this defense and he can rely on it a little bit more. But there was something that I was looking at when I was looking at his stats last night and then again this morning. If you look at his average depth of target over his career, his first season, it was 9.1 yards. Now it's 5.3. It's gone down in 7 straight seasons. So again, the simple explanation is he's changed his approach. But the scary thing is that that's part of changing the approach based on personnel and who's healthy and everything. But like those numbers, when we first saw it, it's like this guy's just going to chuck it all over the place. Like he could probably just go back to that if he had the kind of personnel that you would hope to have with him. There was another couple, like different numbers where he's the all-time leader in yards per game, net yards per attempt. Yesterday, before the San Francisco game, he was the all-time leader in yards per attempt. He's actually not now, I think, as I woke up and that number was different once I looked at Football Reference. So what does this all mean? Look, we can talk about, again, him changing his approach based on the personnel and the defense and all of that kind of stuff. It's really good as far as scoring defense, but I mentioned some of the other stuff it's not like it's the most dominant defense in the league. I guess I just can't believe that this is the Mahomes that we've seen through 6 games, and he's still so good the moment you need him to be perfect on something, keep a play alive, figure it out. I do worry about some of the traffic around him in the pocket. Like, is this sustainable? Can he actually stay this healthy all the time? Like, it'll look like he takes some really nasty shots or he's keeping the play alive, like hoping to get this trailing tight end going across the field in front of him. And he's like, everyone's around his legs and he's like bent over, just kind of like about to fall down. He's throwing. There's just a lot of stuff that's around him all the time, all this chaos around his legs that it actually concerns me a little bit. But when you need that play, the dude always seems to make it. And then the big run down the left sideline, which again, for the defensive players in the league, this thing with the quarterbacks running down the sideline sucks because the late flag, like most of this stuff that's changed in the last few years, a lot of hand wringing was a massive waste of time. Oh, I like the NFL because guys are killing it. Now, you still watch it, right? Sure, there's a few hits every now and then from the past that were a lot of fun and really entertaining, but all of us have collectively gotten over it. We have not changed the channel because the lack of collisions, okay? Some of it's overprotective. A lot of stuff that happens with the quarterback seems egregious in their favor, but it's all because of like the greater good of the health of some of these players. But the sideline stuff has been very reactionary in the way it's been called because a guy can be in bounds and about to step out of bounds. And if you plaster him, you're going to get a flag for a late hit because everybody's kind of conditioned now to like, oh, it looks like he's giving himself up, so you don't have to take that shot. And what I've always told you all the time is when Sean Taylor killed the punter in the Pro Bowl, and I remember thinking like that was excessive. And Darren Woodson and I were talking about it on the air, and Darren Woodson just changed my mind that day. He was like, he's live. Like, what are you doing out there? If you've got the ball and you're live, it's on. Now, granted, that's a defensive back in his mindset, but he's right. If you're on the field, it's on. And quarterbacks are now allowed to just kind of slowly dance to the sideline. And it's expected that you're not going to hit them, even if they actually haven't stepped out of bounds at that point, because everybody's afraid of getting this flag. And that's what happened down the left sideline. I saw a play earlier this year with Kyler Murray where Kyler's going to go out of bounds and everybody stops because they don't want to get a flag. And before he goes out of bounds, he decides to like take another step and then dives forward at the sideline towards the legs of a defensive back. Like that would have been, if the defensive back was a quarterback, it would have been like roughing the passer. It was nasty, not just because he got the extra yards and everybody had given up. It was nasty because of the collision that he put into the legs of the defensive player, because the defensive player's pulling up and now he's thinking, okay, I'm relaxed. That's when the injuries happen. I don't know how it's fixed. I would like to see a few less flags for these borderline late hits because that lack of hit yesterday, and it looked like he may have gotten around Fred Warner. I got to check the all 22s. I'm not sure if I want to admit that right now. So he has the big run, longest run apparently of his career. So that's where we're at. San Francisco also lost this game because Purdy was terrible and they were down their top three wide receivers at one point. Ayuk with the ACL, Debo, 3 plays, the illness. Jennings, who I really like and has been good for them, is out. Purdy, the picks were brutal. I don't know if the second one was a bad route or an overthrow. That's the only one where I'd be willing to hear some kind of an excuse. But that's the other reason Kansas City wins this game. I'm not really ready to do a reclassification of the Niners, but I just can't fathom not loving Mahomes and how frustrated you would be with him winning another game against a good opponent. Okay, the best win, Detroit at Minnesota. Both teams 4-1 or better. The first time they had matched up where both teams were 4-1 or better since 1970. That's over 100 games. I picked Detroit in this game this week. Brutal NFL stretch for your boy. And it's just because I think they're going to win the division and I think they're the better football team. But I'm not sure that the outcome of this game, I'm not sitting here going, oh, definitively right, nailed it again, because both these teams are clearly really good. Down 10-0, the fake punt, Minnesota's ready for it. Detroit fights right back, 21 straight points, up 21-10, up 28-17, 2 different 11-point leads here. And I think one of the best signs for Minnesota, despite how you feel today, is that Darnold, it was only the first pass attempt that he had in this game, I believe, was the second pass attempt he had all season when actually trailing, and he was really good. They opened things up. It wasn't a game where Minnesota was just going to rely totally on its defense, even though the defense got a lot of pressure on Goff. And, this game really could have gone either way. So I think that that's a positive that you have the Darnold factor of like, what's he going to look like in a spot where you really need it from him? No issues with him. Really no issues with anything. I mean, we can go over a bunch of different things in all of this. I think Detroit's a little bit better. I may be wrong. Let's talk Goff, because at the start of the season, and because Goff is like in this new category of like, we're going to be a little more critical of you because our expectations are that much higher. And I was certainly really late to it, but he's just been so good now for a couple, I would say like a year, I don't know if it's a year and a half or whatever, but the start of the season was slow, games below the standard that we would have for him, which is actually a compliment, but he's been on fire the last 3 weeks. And in games against Minnesota with Brian Flores as the defensive coordinator, he's completing 77% of his passes, 5 touchdowns, 0 picks. He's 3-0. And, he had the fumbles yesterday, not on the fumble that was the Montgomery fumble that led to the go-ahead touchdown by Minnesota, but he had 2 fumbles where I can't even believe he recovered both of them. So that was actually, even though he fumbled, pretty impressive. So Minnesota has, what do they got? The Rams with all their injuries, the Colts, Jacksonville, Tennessee, the next 4 games. So it'll be kind of nice after going up against Detroit. I think that's the best win. The other one you could throw in the category is Green Bay's game-winning field goal, now 5-2 with a 24-22 win over Houston. They held C.J. Stroud at 10 of 21. It's the second worst game, I think, of his career. There's another couple games you could say statistically are even in the conversation, so maybe it's the third. I think it's the second worst. Again, Stroud is good enough that now I don't think this is a real problem. It was a really weird game, though. Houston had their first 13 points were on 3 drives of 6, 11, and then 23 yards. So 40 yards of offense, 13 points. Kind of hard to do in the league. But it was the turnovers. You had an interception to start the game from Love. He had another interception before the end of the first half, which led to another Houston touchdown. So that put him at like 19 points. But he stopped turning the football over. Green Bay is 5-2. They're a 6 seed, but still third place in that division because of the teams that we just got done talking about. The Stephon Diggs thing. I'm kind of sick of anybody having like a ton of sympathy for him. Maybe there isn't any. I was surprised, though, this game was so spicy, considering Stop Hate is still in the end zones. Worst loss. It was last night. Sunday nighter. Everybody hates the Jets. Just an aside, The Rock is Santa Claus's personal trainer. In. All right, so the Jets are 2-5 since the 2-1 start, where Rodgers had that game against the Pats. We're like, man, that kind of looked like Aaron Rodgers again. I fell for it. I thought he looked really good. The 2nd and 17 throw where he's actually throwing to the sticks. Not a lot of guys doing that. He did it. I don't know that we all collectively realized how truly awful the New England Patriots are. We knew the roster was lacking talent, but at least last year defensively they were really good. Now they're just awful across the board. I don't know how many of you got up for that early one out here on the West Coast, but I watched a little Drake May. I wanted to see what it looked like. He looked all right. All right, so back to the Sunday nighter. So nobody likes the Jets, whether it's ownership, firing the coach. I don't think Rodgers' approval rating is the highest it's ever been. It's 37-15 to a Pittsburgh team that's not exactly known for its offense. Rodgers may have also picked his nose and ate it, but I don't think that he did. And we may need to reclassify Breece Hall. You know how I like to look at players who collide with camera people on the sidelines. He took a guy out. He couldn't even just turn around and give him like a check-in thumbs up. That's what I love about Lamar Jackson. If he smashes into somebody on the sideline, he checks on him. I know that doesn't mean a lot to you. It does to me. It's something I continue to monitor. All right, but the real storyline about this wasn't about Rodgers or whatever, because it's just a Jets shitfest today. It was about the return of Russell Wilson, okay? And he needs this. He needs to come out into the tunnel. It's all a part of the Russell Wilson experience. He needs to be doing the pregame interview. No one missed it more than him not being able to do it after the calf injury and seeing Justin Fields get off to this team start, right? Because Pittsburgh was 4-2. So a lot of it was, why would they do this? And based on the Russell Wilson we saw in Denver, I think it's a really fair question. Like, what do you actually think you're getting out of Russell Wilson? But you don't know what the conversations were like when they brought him in. I think a lesser franchise, you'd be like, well, they probably promised him something. Like Pittsburgh, I want to give the benefit of the doubt of like, hey, you're going to come in here and compete. We're not going to promise you anything. But there may have been something, or maybe Russell Wilson just looked at the opportunity, and then the Fields trade happens after it. So like, I guess I was trying to wonder what they saw. But again, they have him in their facility. They saw what he looked like before the calf injury. So maybe they saw something that they actually really like, because I can't imagine they liked much that was on the film from Denver. Far removed from the get-up segment of, should we apologize to Russell Wilson. No, we should thank Denver's defense is actually what we should do. So I think it's worth digging into what the Steelers and Mike Tomlin were moving on from when they made the change from Fields to Wilson. So going into last night, Pittsburgh's offense was 25th in yards per game. They were 27th in yards per play. They were 22nd in points. They were 18th on third down conversions, and they were 20th in red zone touchdown percentage. Fields, who I've liked more in moments probably this season than at any other point in his career in Chicago. However, he really wasn't that good. He wasn't. He was 20th in QBR. He had 5 passing touchdowns. Yes, I know he's run in a bunch more, but I always feel like that's when I see guys that like are running in a little bit, like it's a nice thing to have, but it also tells me like when stuff gets weird around you, that's kind of your default. And it's a little late in his career to still be going there, whatever, fine, maybe. But the defense was the number 2 scoring defense, and they're +7 in turnover margin. That's why they were 4-2. It wasn't really because of Fields. So if we're being honest about the change, like as much as I don't love Russell Wilson, and that's been established, I could understand like maybe we just take a look at this and see where we're at, and maybe it's a little bit better. And guess what? Confession, it was so bad those first 2 series that I was chuckling. I wasn't obnoxiously laughing, but I was chuckling. A couple times where he went to run away from the pocket and he didn't. I was like, he looks pretty slow right now. That throw to the left side behind the wide receiver into the dirt. I was like, what is that? You know what I didn't do? Like everybody else, I didn't send a fucking tweet. Because it's like some of you have never watched games before. Because even if you can't stand Russell Wilson, like this is his first game action. We're towards the end of October. This guy's barely played any real football. Like, let him get warmed up. I thought the moon ball shot down the left sideline was totally underthrown. But what we learned with the Pickens relationship last night with Russell Wilson is he's just going to throw it to him over and over and over again and let Pickens win. And it kind of worked. And Russell settled down and he got better. The total numbers look pretty good, despite the fact those first few series looked awful. So I think it's worth being honest about what Pittsburgh was moving on from without any, like I didn't look at last night and go, they've got their guy. But as much as I was rooting for Fields in this, because trust me, I wanted to see Earpiece there all season long, just being like, I just want to do one sideline interview as the starter. They weren't moving on from John Elway. All right. Remember Tyreek Hill? I do. Colts, Miami. Do you know where your Colts are today in the playoff seeding? Well, they're 4-3 and they're a 7 seed. I don't have a lot on Miami and Indianapolis, except for haircut awareness. I'm worried that 8 games into your career for a makeover is early for Anthony Richardson. Yesterday was his 9th. But I think the full makeover, another injury, it's a move that I feel like he went to a little too soon. College football top 12. Reminder, the real ones come out Tuesday, November 5th. Okay, number 1, Oregon. Off this week. They played Purdue 35-zip. Number 2, Georgia. Wow. Thought about putting them number 1. That was a dismantling of the number 1 team in the country in Texas, who we felt like checked every single box. The AP moved Texas down to 5. Georgia right now has a week 1 win 34-33 against the number 9 AP team in Clemson. And then again, as I said, Texas being 5th in the AP, and even the final score doesn't do it just what kind of domination is had in the game. So good luck stacking up against that resume. If you want to put Georgia 1, even with the loss to Bama, they're ahead of Oregon. I wouldn't have an issue with it. I'm just keeping it as is. What we saw from their edge guys, number 11, Javon Walker, who's probably one of my favorite, maybe my favorite defensive player in college right now. Number 10, Damon Wilson, who's technically a linebacker, and now a healthy number 13, Mikael Williams, who missed all of September. What those guys did on Saturday night was a thing of beauty. It's just, we are going to wreck you all night long against one of the best offensive lines in college football and against Ewers' projected first round pick. Although we can talk about some of these top 5 guys at some point. I don't know if we'll get to it with McShay, but I know we will eventually throughout the season. You just cross the board. You're like, can you still be a top 10 pick when you get benched in a game? But Ewers did come back. He settled down a little bit. I'm going to talk about him in a second too, so don't worry about it. One of the most, I think what we saw from that group, wrecking everything Texas wanted to do, was the most impressive thing I've seen from a group all season in college football. Beck wasn't even good, and it didn't matter. He could have had 4 picks in that game, although one was kind of directly related to the next one, so we'll keep it at 3. All right, Ohio State actually was off, did not play Purdue. They've got Nebraska this week, which went from, hey, maybe that'll be a little tricky game, to no, it isn't. Nebraska destroyed by the Hoosiers 56-7. So, there you go. We'll all be looking ahead to 11-2 when Ohio State goes to number 3, Penn State. I have Penn State 4. Right now, Ohio State is a 3.5-point favorite over Penn State. We'll see. Am I really going to fall for the Penn State momentum thing again? We'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, number 5, Texas, same as the AP. I want to make this I have zero issue with Sark going from Ewers to Arch Manning for the last 2 series of the first half. Okay? As I was watching the game, and as ridiculous as pass rush was, I thought, I wonder if Sark would actually do this. And go. It was something I thought about as I was watching that first half because of Manning's running ability. What happens, though, when this is potentially, and it's going to happen now, I've already read a couple of articles about it, is like, oh, well, did you potentially lose Ewers? The first time that was said about a quarterback change, and then if you change from this guy, then you're going to lose him, it probably sounded really smart. I'm so sick of hearing it all the time because it is specific to who the people are. And you've got to give Sark the benefit of the doubt of this deal. And yeah, it looks weird if Ewers is a first-round pick. But like, if he is a first-round pick, then this can't shatter him. Okay, if he were shattered mentally from being benched or removed and isn't the same guy the rest of the half, then you just did an NFL team a favor if he can't get over something like this. Yes, it sucks to get benched, but a real competitor sits there being like, I can't wait to get back in this fucking game. And I think that's what we saw from Ewers, despite the fact it didn't really seem like they had much of a chance. I hear it over and over and over again whenever a team does something like this, as if it's this death sentence for the guy. And it's just very clear. Hey, let's give it another look, see what happens. Allows Ewers a reset, brings him back out for the second half, and it was fine. Number 6, I have Clemson higher than other people do. I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's just because I feel like if they played somebody who wasn't Georgia and they'd be undefeated, we'd feel a little bit better about them. Their loss obviously looks better all the time here. They're going to play Pittsburgh, who we'll see if they're still ranked after Pitt plays SMU. I have Clemson with a 59 strength of schedule, which means I should probably put them behind Miami, who's actually still undefeated. Of course, Miami will not play Pittsburgh, but there'll be, I don't know. Their strength of schedule is actually better. I struggle with the Clemson-Miami thing. I'm just telling you, based on the whole thing, and Cam Ward was terrific again against a Louisville team that's a tough out. They gave up 1 million yards, but Miami, I guess I just like Clemson better than them today. And it means I like both teams better than LSU, who I have at 8, but look out, alert, underlined, next to LSU at number 8. Their defense is better. The Oregon transfer, Braden Swinson, has been incredible off the edge. And number 40, Whit Weeks, is an absolute star linebacker. He looks like he's in on every single play. He also looks like he could be on the cover of the Sooners Media Guide in 1984. His last 2 weeks, he's had 27 tackles, 18 tackles against Ole Miss, 2 sacks, 1 forced fumble, 1 interception. And when LSU gets it rolling downfield, they have wide receivers and tight ends everywhere. Mason Taylor, who I still wish would get more balls, but all the receivers are awesome. And then you bring in the 6'7" freshman Trey'Dez Green. When they had, it's just ridiculous. However, LSU, a dog, plus 3.5 at A&M, who I had 12 last week. It was kind of a weird Mississippi State game. Wigman had the pick that made the score a little bit closer. A&M was in control of that one. Mississippi State, I think we look at as maybe the worst team in the SEC. But, when you got a Van Buren boy back there, it's actually been a little bit better the last couple of weeks from a competitive standpoint, or at least moving the football. Let's say that. All right, number 9, Iowa State. Love this game where they held on to the win against UCF. Beck's second pick wasn't his fault. It was tipped. They run it back for a touchdown, except they don't. Number 4 for UCF, pulling the old Deshaun Jackson, dropping the football before the goal line. Didn't matter because no one recovered the football. They run it in for the go-ahead touchdown. Iowa State has to go the length of the field. And, of course, like Rocco Beck's just one of those dudes where you're like, I like his chances. And that's exactly what happened. Runs in the 2-point conversion. I think they got a turnover there late, so they seal that one. You know what, though? I'm putting Iowa State 10, and I'm putting BYU 9 because BYU has the better wins. The epic comeback Friday night against Oklahoma State, who has a bad record, but still is a game you got to suit up for on Friday. 35-yard touchdown with 10 seconds left to win that one. They have the weird K-State win where it's 38-9. Go through the play-by-play log of what K-State's night was like with the turnovers, and I think going 0 for 4 and 4. But whatever, it's a 38-9 win against maybe the second favorite team despite all the Utah stuff. I think it was Utah in the Big 12. Then it was K-State. So let's put BYU 9, Iowa State 10. Love for the Big 12 there. All right, number 11, Tennessee. Still not the full Nico game. Maybe I should stop talking about it. But the plays that mattered at the end. It is, however, the third straight game for the Vols where they haven't scored in the first half. Probably not what we thought when we started putting together this offense. But the defense is really good. Number 2 in opponents' yards per play. And they beat a Bama team that continues to make mistakes. Personal foul flag at the end to move it back to 4th and 22. Milroe throws a pick. I'm not going to say a lot about Milroe here. Maybe I'll just ask Mel again if he's in the conversation for QB1 for the 25 draft. It's Bama's second loss at the earliest point of the season since Nick Saban's first year at Bama in 2007 when he went 7-6, and seniors that left the team were like, this Saban guy, I don't know. And then Saban went 15 straight years having Alabama ranked number 1 in the AP poll. Number 12, I can pick from Indiana, who just stomped Nebraska. Quarterback got hurt, Rourke, who's going to be 24 soon, but has been incredible. But Jackson Davis, the Warriors' younger brother, is still on the roster. I could go Notre Dame. I could go A&M, but maybe that Mississippi State game lingering a little bit here. Indiana has the 109 strength of schedule. Let's put Notre Dame back at 12. It's none of this matters. We've got him back on Monday, but we have him more than just Mondays. It's Todd McShay here on the show. We're going to talk some college ball, some NFL, but let's start first with what you're doing. Now it's official, which we already hinted at a couple of weeks ago, but you got a new pod coming up. So I'm fired up for you, man. What do we got?
I appreciate it. Excuse me. Good way to start. Cloudy voice. Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturday nights throughout the season, the McShay Show. It's getting ready to launch tomorrow. And I've thanked you privately, but I also want to thank you publicly for the assist in this and helping it get going. And life has come full circle, ESPN to Spotify, The Ringer, and, two guys helping each other out. And hopefully we can build something fun here.
Yeah, I'm fired up for you, man.
What's your advice, bud? I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's good. That's helpful.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. No matter what you do in 6 months, you're just going to be better. So you can stress about not being as good as you want to be in the beginning of it. But I remember certain TV things, once I realized whatever you want to put into this first week, these first few shows, it is unavoidable that it'll just not be as good right now as it will be in 6 months.
Yeah.
So if you go into that knowing that the stuff now versus what you'll build towards in the draft, and you'll figure out all the different things. Just keep trying things, and eventually you'll know what works. You've been doing content for 2 decades, so you have good instincts on it. So you don't really need my advice other than it's a lot easier.
I think it's good for people to hear too. There's a lot of people starting their own podcasts, but I'm excited, man. I got my guy Steve Mensch is going to be a part of the show. He's been with me for 20 years. He'll just be kind of my sounding board, and we'll have a bunch of guests. We're starting with David Pollock tomorrow, and I'm sure Kuiper will be coming on soon, and all our people. I'm excited.
I'm fired up, man.
Yeah.
No, look, Pollock was my last guest ever on an ESPN pod. Speaking of Georgia, let's just get into it here.
Let's do it.
Look, I didn't go into Georgia, Texas thinking Georgia could not win, but based on what we had seen from them, the offense, the first half against Bama, some could say the Mississippi State game was a result that was concerning, maybe the Kentucky thing. But my God, for them to dominate the way they did with their edge guys, all those number 10, number 11, number 13 against that Texas O-line, that was, as I said in the beginning when I did my top 12, I think that's the most impressive performance I've seen from one single unit all season long in college football. And so they are where we need to start.
It was interesting, right? Because we were taping a test show for the first 10 minutes of the game on Saturday night, just to peel the curtain back.
Good timing.
Yeah, well, life happens. Came downstairs, and I think it was 17-0 at the time. So I hadn't seen it. I didn't see exactly what happened, but Ewers is benched, and Carson Beck is still in, and so I got caught up on what was going on. Then I went and watched the tape yesterday. I was watching the NFL games and just watching the tape. I wanted to watch Ewers and how he performed. I wanted to watch Carson Beck and how he performed. Getting ready for our first show tomorrow. We got a lot of quarterback talk tomorrow. Kick things off. Get ready for the 2025 NFL draft, but also tying it into college football and what's going on. So I started with Carson Beck. And with the understanding, obviously, that Ewers got benched. And I was like, wait a second. Why didn't this guy get benched? And then I watched, no, seriously, why didn't Carson Beck get benched? If a quarterback in this game was to get benched, why wasn't the guy who's overthrowing a post route with a wide open receiver, the guy who's making his receivers, as we've talked about all year long, work for it too much? The guy who the interception one, the first interception, I think it was on him. The second interception, it was supposed to be flattened out. The receiver's supposed to flatten out, and there was a miscommunication. The third interception too high on that angle route. And so, and I'm going through it, and I'm like, this is interesting. But then when I watch Ewers, he was more confident, more accurate, more kind of in tune with how things were going. He just ran into a freaking buzzsaw. It wasn't, there were a couple drops, but as it went on, and right before he got benched, and I started to understand, you could see he was feeling it. Ghosts in the pocket, he wasn't getting settled. And so I could understand Sark didn't bench him to bench him for the rest of the game. It was very clear Sark wanted to just calm him down. Because Ewers was in control. He was doing all the right things for 3 series. But then the series before he got benched, you could tell the pressure was affecting him. Now he's making bad decisions. Now he's getting the ball out before he needs to. So you could see it was Sark saying, hey, come over here. Take a deep breath. Let's watch things for a minute from the sideline, which I've always said is it's the most frustrating and, the worst thing in the world to be rotated or to get benched. But I learned the most in my career by sitting and watching others and how I would do things and how I wouldn't do things and all that. And you could see when he came back in the second half, he was settled down and the offense had settled down and they started to move. And the second half was more representative of what Sark expected and what we kind of all expected. But at the end of the day, man, you play that well on defense, and as angry as they were, and as disciplined as they were, that's the secret sauce for Kirby Smart. It always has been. The disrespect card, yes, but it's the disrespect card to get through to your every single player on that defense, the first team guys, the backups, whatever your role is. It's not to get them where they're in a lather. Well, while that's helpful, it's only helpful for so long in a game. Where it really benefits you, and I'm a big believer in this, is during the week of practice. When you tell these guys, no one believes in you. Everyone's going to pick Texas, all the same shit that they went through that they went through and that we heard about post game. When you are driving and drilling that into your players, what you're going to get is a level of focus and then during practice, and then a level of discipline and being in position and having the gap that you're supposed to be, and the linebackers, cat blitzes and corner blitzes being in the perfect spot. All of the plays that were made by great talents, yes, but they were made because the scheme was dialed up really well and the players were in the exact position they needed to be. And that resulted in Jalen Walker who's one of the most versatile defensive players in the entire country, having the 3 sacks, the forced fumble, and all the plays that he made. That resulted in Michael Williams with the 2 sacks. That resulted. One guy, nobody's talking about this dude, and I got to study more tape, but my God, did he jump off the tape? Number 6 for Georgia. Dalen Everett, sack, interception, fumble recovery. He was all over the field.
So, we're going into that game and you're like, all right, Texas checks all of these boxes. And what I'm, as we're caught up in every college football season, way too carried away at the beginning of the year of like, these are the 3 definitive teams and then there's nobody else. And then it's like, okay, well then Georgia has this, like Beck just hasn't been good enough. Even though he put up a million numbers against Mississippi State, but I think they're the worst defense in the SEC. If they're not, they're in the conversation for it. And look, Beck's not getting benched because we're talking about Gunnar Stockton versus Arch Manning, the most heralded recruit. So it's slightly different. I had no issue with it. As I said earlier, I think it was just giving Texas a different look with Manning's legs versus Ewers because the pass rush was so out of control.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and I have no issue.
And for Georgia fans, and just so we're clear, I'm not saying Beck should have been benched. I'm just saying having missed the live TV action and then going back and just watching it on tape, what occurred, it was kind of ironic. Like, wait, if a quarterback was going to be benched, maybe it should be the guy who just threw 3 picks, But I'm not saying he should have been benched by any stretch. I'm just saying if one of the two, I would have guessed the guy with 3 interceptions.
So what I'd like to do though after that game is, it'd be really easy to fall right back into the Texas trap that we just went through, because you could, after that game, which of course I saw a ton of, is, well, why was Texas any good? And you're like, dude, they're giving up 6 points a game. You're like, all right, yeah, but they hadn't played anybody. Like, yeah, you're right. Michigan's already on its 3rd quarterback, so 31-12 may not mean anything there. Then it's UTSA, Louisiana Monroe, Mississippi State, that's nothing. Oklahoma, who I cannot believe Venables benched Arnold in the game against Tennessee. People down there said, no problem. And then you've got Hawkins turn it over 3 straight possessions to start that game. They go back to Arnold. So I don't feel like it's as easy as just saying, well, Texas was a fraud because of all of this different stuff. Like, I still think Texas is in this. I also wonder if Sark would go, all right, this O-line that's like 320, 330 across the board. Like, do I have to change up the game planning here a little bit? I know Bond was probably dealing with some injuries, and Golden, who was certainly having moments there where it felt like he didn't love, or no, it was actually on the other side for Georgia, one of their receivers that felt like he wasn't really up for it.
Number 6.
Number 6, yeah. Number 6, a couple different times.
Jumped on,
like,
Love it, right? Yeah,
I think it was Love It. So
he made some business decisions. I was surprised.
Yeah, I think the point would be, there's this shift of Texas is perfect all week long, which I was buying into Georgia unravels them. And then it's like, who can possibly beat Georgia? And it's like, now we are just repeating the same thing over and over again, knowing that it's very week to week. I think Texas would game plan the rematch completely differently, considering what the edge guys did for Georgia and the one-on-one battles that they continue to win all night long.
Like, when are we, let's learn our lesson, right? Like, Georgia's performance in the second half against Alabama was more considerable or more, eye-popping than what we saw from Texas in the second half. But I think there's some similarities in that Georgia got ran out of the gym versus Alabama in the first half of that game and came back and had a lead for 13 seconds, but they had a lead. Texas didn't quite execute to the level that Georgia did in the second half against Alabama in this game against Georgia, but they still came out and it was a performance reflective of kind of what you would expect to see to a certain degree. It wasn't to the level, but it was certainly considerably better than the first half. The other thing is, Georgia may never play that good of a game again on defense, and maybe they will. Maybe this is going to be the new standard. We'll have to see. And I know, like, God forbid, there's perspective and like rationale and reasoning with the college football fans, but take a step back and be reasonable. Texas just ran into a buzzsaw. Game day's there, all the excitement, all the hype, all the attention. Where was Georgia all week? It wasn't the same level of like interviews and all. This was the Texas show, right? And I think it would be a very different approach the second time around. And the second time around, let's see where they are in 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, how Texas progresses, how they bounce back, how they recover from this. My guess is we're going to wind up seeing these two teams play again. Because I look at this, like, I know Oregon's your squad, and I love Oregon, and my goodness, was I overwhelmed by Oregon and their performance against Ohio State compared to what I was expecting. But to me, like, Texas is a better football team. And Oregon's number 1 in the country right now. Penn State, I would take Texas every single time. Texas against Ohio State, I probably would give the slight lean to Texas. So, like, I know they've got to drop to the polls. I think in the AP they were down to number 5, but I still think Texas is one of the 3 best teams in the country. And I can't wait to see. Hopefully there is a rematch, Texas Georgia, because I do think it will be different.
Yeah, I mean, the Texas poll thing makes perfect sense. Okay, you're going to drop them because they're at home. Ohio State was on the road. That's fine. Same level of opponent. We're talking about the number 1, 2 team. I mean, none of this really matters. But the coaches poll just weekly embarrasses itself. I mean, they dropped.
I don't
Texas
even look at it. What did it do?
They dropped Texas to 6 behind Miami.
Yeah.
But, I wanted to get on the coaches poll here for giving Nebraska a vote. So 1 voter still had Nebraska, but somebody in the AP actually had Nebraska getting a vote there too as well. Usually it's the coaches just never giving up on Nebraska. All right. Anything else from the college weekend before we get to the NFL that you think? Like, I don't want to do a ton of Bama just because I feel like we've already done it. You and I were texting about Nico, and he's missing the deep shots over and over again. Mm-hmm. That's the 3rd straight half to start a game. Tennessee hasn't scored a point. So it's a really nice win. It's this rivalry, 3rd Saturday in October. But, I think the AP has Tennessee ahead of LSU.
Tennessee at 7, LSU 8. Yep.
Yeah. I don't feel I would pick LSU against Tennessee right now. I think the offense is so many better.
There are so many takeaways. I think the 2 things the thing that really stood out for both teams in that Tennessee-Alabama game, based off their histories, based off their offensive systems, where are the weapons? You know what I mean? Like, you just think about like the Jerry Judys, the Henry Ruggs, the Devontae Smiths, the Jalen Waddles, Jamison Williams, John Mechie, and you got one guy, but it's like they missed a recruiting cycle at wide receiver. And so now you've got an unbelievable freshman, but
it's also some transfers out. I mean, Bond's running around for Texas. And he was a nice player.
Yeah,
and Jermaine Burton, is gone. He's in the pros.
But my point is, it seemed through transfers out and maybe missing a recruiting cycle with the wide receivers, that really stood out to me. And Tennessee, the same. Like, I get the quarterback's inconsistent and overthrowing guys, and a lot of that is on him, and his head was spinning in the first half, played better in the second half. But without Dylan Sampson, and Dylan Sampson was MIA in the first half. He got injured, and Molly McGrath had the report. He went into the tent. I think he had 5 carries at the time that he went into the tent. I think he had 8 or 9 carries the rest of the half, but the medicine kicked in the second half. Right? I mean, he was back to normal, and then that offense was functioning at a pretty high level against a really good defense. Not an elite defense, but a really good defense. And so Dylan Sampson, we've said this for weeks now. Dylan Sampson is their offense, but Nico is going to have to make significant strides. But do they have the weapons? Like, do they legitimately have?
They should. I mean, Thornton's good. Squirrel is good for a drop here and there, and I still love Brew. And I know he had a tough drop there, but I think McCoy's always somebody that you can kind of bank on.
He's your possession guy.
Physical. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, he's give me a slant. Give me him as a corner on his side on his own and cutting in front of a corner. Like, he should be able to win that every single time. I think Thornton's
the secret sauce. The secret sauce for Tennessee, let's just face it, when they were rolling offensively, was that you had a quarterback in Hendon Hooker who wouldn't miss the deep ball. Because it's not like they run the football, balance, run, short game. And then when they pop one, they were hitting it at a very high rate when Hendon Hooker was there with Jalen Hyatt. Now when they go try to pop one, it's like 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7 that they're connecting on. And that's the difference. It wasn't about a lot of deep shots, a lot of vertical stuff. It was about when they did it, they had a high success rate. Right now they don't. But
yeah, he was at one point after he missed the sideline shot down the right sideline, which he overthrew, which is becoming a normal thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can understand the sideline miss. The post missed, I have very little patience for, because I feel like the post, you have it open to that side. You can make it so much easier. You don't have to just nail the distance on the sideline throw. The post throw is an easier throw, and you shouldn't be overthrowing it because you're just giving space to the receiver to run underneath it. So you don't have to
Well, Brian Greasy and I used to talk about this a lot. He would laugh about it. Like sometimes it played to his advantage that he didn't have Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes' arm, because underthrowing or putting it up for grabs is a hell of a lot more effective on the deep ball than overshooting the guy, right? Because you get the chance for a pass interference, you get a chance for a 50-50 ball, you get a chance for DBs turned around and can't locate the ball, and so your receiver can come back. When you overthrow it. And so part of it, I don't want to say it's coaching, but there's got to be a level of drilling it into Nico's head that, like, it's okay to undershoot this thing, put it up, give it a little more air, you know?
Okay. Let's do our Heisman eliminator here. As of right now, you've really got me.
I get you on the ropes, if I remember. I know we skipped it last week, but I'm fine to skip the rest of the season.
You have your roster is Milroe, Cam, and Genty. I have Travis Hunter, Ewers, and Nico. The Genty pick, if I had Genty on my side, it'd be pretty good. But right now it stands. You have two of the top two favorites right now on FanDuel at both plus 200. Genty and Ward are plus 200. I have potentially Ewers still in the mix. Nico, I don't really see that happening. He doesn't even have the numbers for it. So what would the story be that he surpasses everybody? So that feels like a drop here after I was so excited to pick him up. I forget who was supposed to go first. I think
so. I have Genty and Ward. Is that right?
Yeah. So you've got me boxed out pretty good. All right, so I'm going to go first here just to keep it moving. I'm going to drop Nico, and I'll pick up Dylan Gabriel just because from an odds perspective, I need somebody with a real chance at this instead of getting cute. I was a little upset when I was looking at all of the options. I think Singleton from Penn State had odds, but the tight end for Penn State, Warren, didn't. Granted, a tight end's probably not winning the Heisman, but I just think for the sake of respect for Mechanicsville and what Tyler Warren has done this year, it'd be nice, put just a ridiculous number in there just so he could show his friends, hey, look, I'm on the board.
Yeah. I feel like, I'm obviously hanging with Genty and Ward.
Keep Milroe. Keep Milroe. He was in the conversation for QB1.
Watch yourself. I got to get rid of,
I'll never.
I've got to get rid of Milroe.
You guys lost your minds that week.
Yeah, is that what you're going with? All right.
Yeah.
Call me in April. No, I'm kidding.
Call me in April.
I will.
And be like, hey, sorry,
I'll lose your number. I will. I'm gonna take Milroe out, and I'm gonna go with Cade Klubnik just for fun.
Yeah, I like it.
He's putting up huge numbers. I've always liked him. The Georgia game is always going to be lingering, but since then, man, what a run they're on offensively.
I love the Klubnik pick. Maybe you're just better at this than I am. All right, so it is in.
Yeah.
Do I drop anyone else? No. Do I go Beck? It's just not
Carson
really.
Beck.
No, I'm just trying to think of like any possible storyline to play it out. Like, hey, they end up being the 1 seed. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you don't want to go Curtis Rourke from Indiana? I threw an O in there, trying to make him Irish. More Irish, I guess.
I don't. Look,
I'm joking.
Maybe Diego Pavia, sympathy vote. No one else. No favorites running away for it. Vandy ranked again at 25.
I love it.
Ranking drought shorter than you would think with Vandy. Let's talk a little NFL.
Okay.
All right. Who would you rather have right now? Trevor Lawrence or Drake May?
Oh, gosh. Given I mean, it really doesn't matter. I was going to say given current circumstances, but what the hell does it matter?
It's a really nasty
Who's
question.
older? Trevor.
What?
I'm joking. Trevor just turned 25 like 2 weeks ago. I was watching a broadcast of the game 2 or 3 weeks ago. He turned 25, which is, I mean, Michael Penix Jr. is 27.
Wait a minute.
Check it out.
No,
Did I Google wrong?
There's no way he's 27. That's not true. He's 24.
Hold on. Michael Penix Jr. is 24. He's turning 27, I believe. Michael.
What, in 3 years? Yes.
Penix age. Oh, he's 24. Yeah.
He's born in 2000.
Maybe I was thinking of somebody else. I don't know.
Dude, what do you get? Some Winky scouting report?
He's turning 25 in May. Yeah.
Next year. Yeah.
All right. So
Like
I guess they're basically the 1 year difference. My point is, what is Trevor in his 4th year right now?
This is year 5, isn't it?
Is it year 5? Yeah. So
no, 4 year 4.
Year 4. So 4 years in the league, and Penix hasn't taken a legitimate NFL snap. So
Penix wasn't the question, but are you telling me you'd rather have Penix than Trevor Lawrence?
No, we went down a rabbit hole. Sorry.
All right.
That's what happens when I get on my phone. Oh gosh. I would still go with Trevor. I'm still going to go with Trevor. I'm hanging tough with Trevor. I see it. I get it. It's not working. I would like to see, there's going to be massive changes in Jacksonville. I think he took a step for a little while. I think they plateaued. I wonder, is he fully, like physically, I don't know. He doesn't seem as comfortable and confident in what he's doing. He doesn't seem like his footwork is not the same. And so I wonder if he can get a reset and next year come back. But I'm not. Drake May, I've seen promising things. And I think, unfortunately, you'd like to sit him a whole year, but at least now they brought him in, and everyone in the league, everyone in the organization realizes that this is one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL. So the pressure's not on Drake May. So I don't think it's going to be some kind of mental collapse or confidence breaking year for the rookie. But from a talent perspective and what they can be, absolutely Trevor Lawrence.
I don't really have much to add to that. I thought May, has looked pretty good considering the situation, and Polk dropping the football all over the place. I mean, we want to talk about one of the worst self-proclamations ever. Like, I got the best hands in the NFL. Like, well, stop dropping the football when everybody knew that you didn't anyway. There's confidence. There's just kind of times with other guys. I mean, the Pats are a mess. The roster's a mess. He doesn't have a ton of great options. And despite that, like, some of the numbers against pressure for him, it's like, and the thing is May's like one of those weird ones where the tape 2 years ago is so much better than the tape the year before, right? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely.
Right. So you're kind of like, man, it's like some of these guys that have this like one good year, one bad year, and then he's the reverse of the Burrow. He's the reverse of the Jaden Daniels, or at least it's going in the right direction with May. But I think that's still the right pick. I just still cannot believe the Jags, like this whole thing has been this bad post-Urban, and thinking Peterson had figured this out. But this is like this is such a carryover of where they were at last year, where I was defending them. I was like, hey, they're fine. They'll be good. And then it just off a cliff, and it's been the same thing. So nice win in London, but the Pats aren't any good. Okay. Who are you more surprised about in the reclamation part of their thing? Because an awesome matchup between Detroit and Minnesota. Goff now is somebody like I expect great things from. Darnold got some play now, actually trailing in a game, and I thought he made some terrific throws on top of everything else. Both I thought were, Goff, especially some of the pressure that we saw from Minnesota, just hanging in there.
Yeah.
Even though he had, the fumbles, that one fumble he recovered with his left hand while he was on the ground. I
saw that.
Believe he came back up with. So between the two, to be at this point where it's like Goff maybe feels more complete because we've seen it now for a little while, as opposed to Darnold just a month and a half in. But between the two, like, which is a better story for you?
They're both great stories, and we're starting to see more of that in the league now, with guys leaving their first spot or maybe their second spot and having success. We talked about, Baker, obviously. Baker and Goff are kind of the poster children, but Darnold is kind of the next in line. I'm still like, I never totally wrote off Sam Darnold, but I also felt like I was on an island alone. And I know it wasn't alone. And I've heard the Belichick clips about the Jets are the only ones who didn't believe. And, part of that's the whole Belichick versus the Jets type of stuff. But, and I know friends in the league, people I talk to, I know there are a lot of people that continued to have support for Sam Darnold and believed he could be, what he's showing here. But you just wonder after how many years and how many stops, is that just, unfortunately, this is just a case where it's never going to turn around. So for me to see Darnold, and now we're in week what is it? 5 and so six
week
weeks.
7.
Yeah. So 6-7 weeks in, to see that he's still playing at this level, doing it against damn good defenses. And it's here to stay is, I guess, the best way to put it. You worry after a couple weeks, is it the competition they're playing or teams haven't adjusted to him yet? He is the best version of himself that we've seen in the NFL. He is the best version of himself, even going back to USC in terms of protecting the ball, being decisive, knowing where he's going with it, understanding the timing, understanding his role. He had to mature. And I'm not talking as a human being. I mean, as a quarterback with his decisions and understanding it's great that you can do this every once in a while. You can create some plays and extend and all that. But if you don't cut all the crap out that comes with that, it's just never going to work. And I think the time he's had with very effective coaching, including Kevin O'Connell this year, is really kicked all that stuff out of his game. And it's great to watch. To me, to answer your question, coming out, I expected so much more out of Darnold than I did from Goff, just to be honest. At their lowest points, I still don't. Goff didn't reach the low point that Darnold did. The valley was so much lower for Sam with the organizations he was in, the failures he had, the turnovers, the ugly plays. His valley was way lower than even the lowest moment for Jared Goff. And so to see him now I'm not saying he's at the level of Jared Goff or playing consistently like he does, but they're in the same neighborhood, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I think it's different. You're right. I'm not saying, no, you're wrong, because Darnold, you were like, is this guy ever going to figure it out? Whereas Goff, it stings differently because you go, I made it to a Super Bowl, and now I'm out of here. So you can make the argument that they hadn't completely written him off because they traded him for somebody in Matthew Stafford. It works out. They win a ring and all that kind of stuff. But that to me, the doubts that I had about Goff, it's well, if you traded him, then doesn't that kind of mean, and then I'll never forget Dilfer saying that McVay wanted a partner at the position. He wanted a partnership as opposed to a mentorship with Goff. And I thought that was pretty revealing. And yet here we go now.
But Goff was a pup then. And that makes sense. And that's exactly what Sean wanted. That's exactly what Sean got.
And it worked. It's crazy that it worked. It worked out for everybody. But you're right. I mean, at Darnold, at one point, you're wondering, although all of us Darnold nerds, because I liked him better than I think anybody else in the draft, which, look, between all of the different options, there's certainly between Lamar and Josh Allen. Yeah. Darnold's likely never capturing that. You could get into a Baker conversation, then poor Josh Rosen. But
it's funny though, how bad of a class is that? 3 years in, right? You remember,
because
that was supposed
Allen's
to be
the
super class. We talked about that with was 83. I remember doing the draft, and it was going back to the Marino and all, and Jim Kelly, that whole class, and then all of a sudden you're 3 years in, and Rosen's dead to rights. Darnold's done. Baker sucks. You know what I mean? We get these two guys, and even Allen played good, and you saw the flashes, but his first year, is he ever going to quite, pull it all together? And so,
I think
Lamar, we forget Lamar struggled the first couple of years, and you wondered, is he ever going to be able to get over the hump and become a good enough passer? So, the first few years of that class, it was whew, did we overhype and oversell that? But now you look back, and Rosen's the bust of them all. But you got 4 damn good quarterbacks, 2 of them elite. So it turned out to be, every bit as good. What was it? Tony Eason was in that class in 83. I mean, he was better than Rosen, but I remember was he the outlet? No, there was somebody else.
I think it was the Ken O'Brien ahead of Marino.
Yeah.
So I can look it up here again, but I just remember it was Elway 1, and then it was Todd Blackledge, and then it was Jim Kelly, then it was Tony Eason, and then it was Ken O'Brien 24th, and then Marino 27th. So Marino went behind all of those dudes.
Yeah.
All right. A couple things that I want to get to here in the next 5 minutes, and then we'll finish it up. The decision to go, I don't know if you have anything on the Jets part of it. That loss last night, disastrous. The Sunday night, the prime time, multiplier, throw it in there because it makes it even worse, and everybody's just dumping on the Jets. But I understood why the Steelers went with Russell Wilson to see what it looked like, and it looked terrible at the start, but there was enough there to probably build on or talk yourself into. He's clearly more willing to raise the risk, just throwing balls to Pickens there. But I just think they're going to be a really good defense that is going to have a quarterback. I would imagine there's not ever going to be a moment where you feel like the quarterback question has been answered for the Steelers with their two options this year.
I agree. And I think Russell Wilson and the Steelers were aided by a secondary that was decimated last night. The three starters or three significant contributors weren't even suited up last night. I believe you had, I think two or three injuries during the game. So they were down to like nuts and bolts. Like they didn't have much in the secondary. I'm not making excuses, but
it is kind of funny that we've had two Steelers primetime games where like Dallas didn't feel like they could even put a defensive lineman out there.
Right.
And then you have the Jets secondary part of it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So it's encouraging. There's no question about it. And does it add an element? I think there was a good discussion about it on the broadcast. Like, I think it was a broadcast. I forget. Someone was talking about like with Justin Fields, you add that numbers advantage, right, in the run game, and so that can help create things in the run game. But by the threat of being able to stretch you out vertically and like more consistency from the quarterback, that's going to spread you out as a defense. It's going to back you off as a defense. So there are two ways to accomplish it, ultimately what Pittsburgh wants to accomplish. And so they're trying this out. And in the first go around was successful. And that, is it more productive? Is it more effective? Because we're going to win with defense. We're going to win with special teams. We're going to win with running the football and controlling things on offense. That's how we're going to do it, right? And so is it more effective to back defenses off and have more of a legitimate threat and put more of a scare in the deep portion of the field with Russell Wilson? Or is it more effective to have a running back type presence at the quarterback position to create a numbers advantage? So I get why Tomlin did it. Now here's the beauty. You've got both of them. And once everyone settles in and understands their role, and if they continue to have some sort of success with Russell Wilson moving forward, then you bring in Justin and you have packages for him and short yardage, goal line, different series, different points in the game. And also, like if Russell goes down, something happens, there's not many better backup quarterback situations in the league than having Justin Fields come in. So I'll be totally honest. I didn't think they should have made the move, but after watching it, after one game, I see why Tomlin wanted to, and I think he has to be pleased with what he saw. But I don't get the sense from Pittsburgh that they're absolutely like this is the only way. But he has said
they already said it. They already said like we're not opposed to like going back to Fields.
But he also said if we go back to Fields, that's it.
It's over.
Yeah. So it'll be fun to watch.
I do wonder if there's some kind of conversation there with Russ's agent and the kind of stuff that Russ would want because he's difficult. Is that I need to at least like you got to, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like that's an NBA thing sometimes where you have to do the agent a favor.
I don't see Mike Tomlin doing anyone any favors.
Yeah, I just wonder if they felt, well, maybe he felt like he owed it to Russell Wilson as this veteran guy because, Belichick, there's all those old school coaches used to have that deal about like how you don't lose your job to injury until you lose your job to injury.
Yeah.
Because he did it. That used to be a thing that was like very accepted back in the day. Maybe it was more Parcells than it was Belichick, but as soon as Belichick, Bledsoe goes down and he's like, all right, you lost. And Bledsoe couldn't believe it. Like Bledsoe couldn't believe
still
he
to
wasn't
this
getting his
day
job.
can't believe it.
Right.
All the Super Bowl rings later, still, watch the documentaries.
I love Drew Bledsoe. One of the most uncomfortable interviews I've ever done is I asked about the Brady thing, and I was co-hosting and Will Cain was filling in that day. And then he's like, all right, well, you lost your job to Tony Romo. And Bledsoe's like, Jesus Christ. Like the whole interview it sucked because like Will was going with the Cowboys angle of like, while we're on this topic of you losing your gig, let's do it again in another city. And I was sitting there like looking and I didn't blame Will for asking the question, but I'm just thinking like in the arc of the interview, like you can't do it to him twice in the same 10-minute hit. And then on the way out, we're like, so what's going on with your winery? And he's like, yeah, dude. Thanks guys. Like,
go believe yourself.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It was the nicest go fuck yourself goodbye on a radio interview that I've ever done. I didn't really blame him. Okay. Last thing that I want to touch on here. I spent some time talking about Mahomes and this version of him, but the reason this version of him is still at a 6-0 is because of this defense, man. And I don't know how you felt about like the different parts of it, but the fact that they could move on from Snead. We know that Chris Jones, now that Donald is gone, is the best interior defensive lineman in all of college football, but their linebackers between Bolton being back and healthy, Drew Tranquill, Leo Chenal, like this is a really nasty group to go with a couple guys in the secondary that I really like. So as they rebuilt this defense with youth and had the luxury of being able to do it because Mahomes seems to fix anybody's problems, what did you think about the pieces they were putting into place here? Because I don't know that anybody would have thought the Chiefs have the best linebacker group in this 4-3 alignment, which doesn't really mean anything anyway because it really plays more secondary guys. But I just feel like this group of linebackers is out there making plays, and especially with Fred Warner not having Greenlaw to his side with his injury, there's a real conversation about this group, not just the D tackle and not just McDuffie in the secondary.
I don't think enough credit gets given to Brett Veach. Like everyone knows,
dude, he's incredible.
The big name, and I did the Chiefs preseason games for 2 years, so I got to know him a little bit, and talk to him a little bit. Not as much as I would have liked, to be quite honest, because we had a job to do and all that. But like, I had some good conversations with he and Andy Reid together. And like every organization, if you have a great coach, the great coach has a general manager who understands exactly what works and the pieces that are necessary. This organization worked together as a family, if you will, like in total lockstep. Understanding this process, right? Veach is the one who came to Andy Reid like 2 years earlier, I think when Mahomes was a freshman or whatever it was, and was like, that's our guy. And remember, like his tape was all over the place. He was a mess. He's like, this is the guy that will fit what you want to do to take your offense to the next step. And they started studying, and they told me the stories of going back in the room and how Andy was like, enough, shut up. I got it, but it's not for another year for the draft. Like I got it. He's like, but he was persistent. So it starts there, right? And then you go through the drafts, and I'm not going to bore you and go down the whole list, but you go through the drafts after that. It was all about, okay, we got a young quarterback, sit him a year. We handled the process perfectly. But from a personnel standpoint on the back end, everyone talks about Alex Smith, developing him, giving him a year, giving Patrick Mahomes a year to sit back and learn, Andy developing him, all those things. But from a personnel standpoint, it was all offense, get them weapons, bring in, draft picks, early draft picks, bring in guys that are going to be speed. We're going to take this offense and this West Coast system, and we're going to make it uniquely ours. And we got to do that with speed and difference makers to match up with what we have in this unbelievable arm and unbelievable playmaker, right? And they did that. And what suffered? The defense did. But they were shootouts, right? Now you got to pay Patrick. I'm just going with the mechanics of building this roster, this organization, and keeping it at a high level, not just getting it there, but keeping it at a high level. Now we got to pay him. But in the meantime, in that 4-year span before we got to really pay him, we have developed him into the best quarterback in the league, or at the time, the second best quarterback behind Brady, right? And so in doing that, right, Ryan, we recognize now we can peel back some of that help a little bit, but we got to get good on the defensive side. And Chris Jones was earlier. That was 2016, right? the second round pick on Jones, who had some character issues, fell to the second. They got him there. But drafting, developing, keeping has been the key. Nick Bolton, 2021, first round pick on him. Stud. Trent McDuffie, 2022, first round pick. Karlaftis, also the same year, first round pick, and the defensive end. Leo, you just mentioned, 2022, third round pick. I went through this defense. 9 of the 11 dudes were drafted. And almost all of them, 2021, starting with Bolton. Chris Jones was 2016, but 2021, 2022, 2023. That 3-year span, they said, all right, we've got to get great on the defensive side to support and not force the offense to carry us all the time. And they did it. They loaded up and they hit on their picks. It's one thing to use early round picks. How many times we talk, well, they spent 7 picks on the defensive front 7 in a 4-year span in the first 3 rounds, but only 3 of them panned out. Well, they're hitting on all these guys. And so you've seen this, and then you've got the best defensive coordinator in all the NFL to match with it. And now Mahomes, they're not having to put up big numbers. He's going to continue to get better. He's not playing at the level that he wants to be playing. They've had all sorts of injuries on the offensive side, but we're sitting here going into week 7, week 8, and they're undefeated. And they look like a team that's absolutely going to make another Super Bowl run, right?
Yeah, I forget if it was Tranquil. You'll have to forgive me for confusing him with Leo, but there was a tackle on Kittle where I was like, you don't see Kittle ever get tackled like that. And it's just, dude, they've got an attitude.
Yep.
They're fast. And, they're a big part of the reason. As much as I love Mahomes, they're a big part of the reason. All right. We're going to bounce, man. That was great. And again, your first episode will be out Tuesday. We're taping it. So we're going live. I don't know what we're doing. All I know is I'm going to press a couple buttons here. We're going to fire it up on Tuesday. It's our first show. I'm sure it will be an absolute disaster. We're having David Pollock on, talk some college football. We're going to get into the quarterback class. I don't know what else we're going to talk about. I got my guy, cynical Steve Mensch. He's going to be by my side for, as he has been the last 20 years, and we'll see how it goes. And I'm sure what we roll out tomorrow will be nothing like what we're rolling out in 6 months, as you said. But I'm excited to get it started. Been on the sideline way too long, and I'm ready to go. All right. And the great thing about having a new podcast is that the algorithm gets so weirded out by all of this traffic for something that's brand new. It'll probably go to number 1 overall in sports. So you can screen grab that and say, hey, I have the number 1 podcast in sports. You can do that.
I promise you one thing. I know you're the algorithm guy. I know you got all sorts of bitches, complaints, understandings, knowledge, everything else. I'm going to leave that up to you. I'll text you every few weeks, what
I'm going to do it for you. I'm
I know.
Look at the number 1 podcast
and you'll take that headspace away from me where I'm not good at that stuff. I stay in my lane.
All right. Out Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturday nights, The McShay Show with Todd McShay and others. Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother. I'll talk to you.
You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari, 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
Life Advice. The email address, lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. We've got Kyle, we've got Steve. A lot of stuff on the docket for the Spotify gang. How are you guys managing everything? Because Ceruti, you're flying out to LA tonight. Kyle has to meet up. It could be a frolic room thing for the young guys on the show. What do we got?
I'm doing some adult stuff. I'm going golfing with John Jastrzemski and Tate Frazier today. So I'm gonna start it off on an adult note.
JJ, let's go. JJ is I love JJ. He's got one speed.
Angeles National, man. 11. We're doing it big. I decided to. No, it's gonna be an 18. I decided to. I downloaded the Golf Now app. I decided to really commit. Like $100 ahead. Didn't see that one coming. I guess people have just been paying for my golf rounds at the local golf course. Now that I'm the guy booking it, it's I'm like, wow, I guess I owe you guys some money, but no one ever asked me, and I don't know.
Wait, this isn't free? This isn't like going to the park?
No, I knew it wasn't
free.
Golf was
free.
I knew it wasn't free, but I was like, oh, I'm the beers guy, and I'll bring the beers and whatever. But yeah, I what I've brought to the table is not even close to what folks have been spending on me. Again, we're playing the local Roosevelt 9-hole Walker courses, but still, I haven't paid $1 in greens fees. So I had a bit of an epiphany last night when I booked this.
Yeah.
So who's been putting you on scholarship? Tate?
Well, I go to Tate's club. I don't know how it works in the club scene, the country club space, but yeah, my some of my frolic buddies have just been like, yeah, I booked it, and I rent the $4 walking cart, and I sling my cooler of beverages on it, and that's kind of what I've been bringing to the table. And I've been using their golf clubs too. I don't know. I'm a mess.
I have those TaylorMades for you.
All right. I gotta shit or get off the pod here. I'm gonna drive down to Manhattan Beach one of these days.
All right, we'll do it. We'll just pick a time that you want to come down, because I thought but you just go out early, and I'm not going to go take an Uber to the Frolic Room at 3:00 on a Tuesday.
I don't like when we talk about this. I'll go down there. All right, we'll just stop right there.
Yeah, because honestly, I'm flying out tonight, and I don't know if I'm going to see Ryan. Like something,
yeah, we talked about this off air without you, Ryan. We're really not sure. Really not sure.
I don't know that you are. I have a fancy dinner tonight that I'm trying to get in before the NBA starts. So,
that's the greatest excuse ever. The NBA's back. We're fucked, dude. Ceruti, it's me, me, and Wargs.
We'll go to the Frolic Room. It'll be fine. I'm not worried about it.
Wargs and Roots. It'll be great.
Kyle,
when do you leave, Ceruti?
I leave tonight. I don't get until late tonight, and then I leave.
No, I mean, when do you?
Oh, Friday morning. First thing Friday morning.
Friday's like the Masked Ringer Exodus.
Yeah. Yeah, I would have said next
maybe
day,
we could do.
Birthday.
Maybe we could do some apps and cold ones on Thursday, but it'd be a hosting thing.
Well, Thursday night football action at Russillo's crib.
I don't know. It'd probably be NBA main screen, and then I'll just
yes,
it's true.
I'll just
yes.
If I have to do a Friday morning Thursday night football recap, of like, oh my god, what do you make of this team now? 4-3. This is crazy. Yeah. All right. Sounds like
TBD.
Yeah, very TBD. Doesn't feel good right now, though, does it?
No.
Monday morning, Thursday night hangout. We've got 4 days to think about this.
I'm motivated. There's golf clubs at the end of this tunnel for me, so I'm motivated to get.
I'm putting it out there right now. I'm putting it out there right now. That means I actually have to go to the storage unit with a key, unlock it, get the clubs, and set it up. That'll be there. I think TaylorMade rocket balls.
That sounds awesome. That sounds like it's really going to elevate my game.
Yeah, I think they're the perfect club for you right now. I don't know what the forgiveness ranking.
How are the grips?
On any of those.
Big grips? I'm a big grips guy. I used somebody's club with huge grips, and I was like, this changed everything.
They're not the super stroke, like oversized grips that I've seen some people rock. I mean, it's like the hammer of Thor for some of those guys.
Yeah, it's like remarkable. Yeah. Like you have to, if you see it, you have to say something about like, look at those grips, man. Anyway.
Yeah. I've been told that I'm playing with like close to like single handicap irons. And I've just been like, well, then I will have to work. That is a goal.
Right.
I'll have to work.
I'm going to fit this shirt one day. I'm going to buy the small shirt. Yes, that's right.
Or buy the big shirt. Okay, let's read a couple emails. Nice. We did have a chest shaving follow-up from somebody who works at Gillette. So I think this person's going to know. No gym stats. Pickup comp is New Orleans Hornets era David West. Hard screens, deadly pick and pop ability from the elbow. Does that mean that post Chris Paul, you're an entirely different guy? All right, quick follow-up to the chest shaving question. Do you ever shave your chest, Ceruti? Because you weren't here for this. So something tells me no.
I don't
Again,
shave
like Wargon,
it.
he looks like he's got a lot to work with.
Well, wow. Yeah. Ooh, geez.
Feels a little stereotypical there, Kyle, but okay.
Well, before I answer, what were your guys'
Look at
answers?
his face.
I was in Tampa last week over the weekend, so I missed everything. What did you guys? I could see Ryan doing it. Kyle, no.
No, correct.
The assumption was that I do it regularly. I've done it once in my life.
I don't shave it. Occasionally, I'll just like trim it because it gets really long. And I have very straight hair and it looks stupid. But
so like a five guard,
not very often.
Chest bangs,
and really kind of only in the summer when, yeah. Just, trim around the nipples a little bit, try to clean it up a little bit. But no, I really only do it in the summer too. Like when I'm going to pools and stuff, like in the winter, it just, doesn't matter. Just let it roll.
Yeah,
How does your wife, like, why don't you guys let me know? Cause not every woman likes the same stuff, man. So some think the chest hair is kind of like cool, and some are repulsed by it. So,
no, she likes it.
She likes you having chest hair.
Nice.
Yeah, I think way better than if I was just like
sweet.
bare. Here's the thing too, though, is like I also have no pecs. Like, shocker, I'm not very muscular. Like, I kind of need chest hair to look manly. If I shaved, I would look like a 12-year-old boy.
Chalamet, yeah.
I think I need the chest hair just for a little bit of street cred.
That's a good point about the nipples. I got like chandeliers of hair. It seems like it's like way longer than it should be.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I could employ. I mean, I was in a pool all summer, not even thinking about what everyone else was seeing. So maybe I'll think about that.
There's nothing like dudes, but you're not like, there are dudes who literally just have nipple hair. Like, they don't have chest hair. They just have, and that's
my dad's kind of like that. My dad's kind of like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should. I think we're all in agreement, but you got to be a little delicate with that. All right.
Tassels. Anyway.
Yeah. Although you wonder if there's something about the science of that where you get transplants from the nipple area to your head. If it's that strong and grows that well and that long.
Faster than everything else, right?
Yeah,
is there a chance?
It just grows no matter what.
Like, did you go to Turkey? No, this new thing from nipple cadavers. It's a little stringy. Yeah, it's long as hell, though. And it's tense.
A wire
ponytail's going to be awesome.
Yeah, right. It's like you can scrub a cast iron skillet. All right, let's see here. So our guy works for Gillette. No, way more than anyone should about the science of razors and shaving. We defer to you, sir. The thing our emailer needs to realize is that shaving severely dries out the skin, which is the source of the itch. That's probably why Gillette's put all those nice little moisturizer strips on their blades. Shaving not only cuts the hair, but also scrapes away the thin top layer of skin, which contains natural oils and skin protectants. The friction from the shirt rubbing against the freshly dried out skin on his chest makes the itch even worse. The biggest thing that can help is to moisturize after the shave. The skin needs to be rehydrated. I recommend an unscented moisturizer, as scent can be a skin irritant to many people. Shaving is pretty tricky no matter what. To make it easier, trim the hair first if it's long. Using shaving cream, this softens the hair, makes it easier to cut, and don't go cheap on the razor. You want something that cuts easily and doesn't pull on the hair. Godspeed.
Like
God. Yeah, but you know what?
We kind of nailed that, by the way. He kind of just said all the things like that we threw out there.
Yeah, but he did it in like 3 sentences. I think he was just, we're flying blind. I'm not moisturizing the chest, trimming and getting through the whole thing. Like,
I'm not moisturizing at this point anywhere, really.
Yeah, that's a topic. Well, maybe we just do a moisturizing day.
Mm-hmm.
Bring in a couple extra experts.
Just put that in your subject line of your email.
Yeah. Moisturized day alert. Sort of botched that delivery. My apologies. Okay. We haven't even read an email yet here. Let's go Burlington mattress dilemma. Let's see. Is this from, it's my old stomp. All right. Hope all is well. 21 years old, 6'4", 190-ish. Handsome. Fucking look out. Has anybody done that before? Has anybody done that non-prompted, like as a relationship thing where, guys have been like, hey, I'm a 7, I'm an 8.5.
Before you ask, I am handsome.
Yeah, this guy just throws it out there. Handsome. Basketball comp, Dirk. The hair to match. Basketball nickname is, exclude this?
No.
Because it's, well, he gives us his nickname, but I can't say it because it's actually his first. All right. So I'm a senior at UVM. All right. Living off campus. He tells me where he lives, but not to say it. He lives right near where.
He wants you to know.
Yeah, that's fine. But like where you live is just legendary for where we used to just kick it. All right. The fact of the matter is my roommates and I need your help. For the past 3 months, we've been plagued with a stray king size mattress. The beginning of this curse requires some context. I've lived with the same 4 roommates in all of our off-campus houses since junior year. One of my roommates and myself took a semester abroad. I think he wants me to leave out some of this stuff. I don't know that any of this is nefarious enough to really worry about it. It's about a fucking mattress, too. Some rooms in the house are more desirable than others, and this meant that some room switching occurred amidst vacancies. My one roommate, we can call him George, chose to use my mattress while I was away in the fall. When I returned the spring semester, he then switched rooms and used my other roommate's mattress who had gone abroad in the spring. Where were you guys on mattress etiquette? Because dudes sleeping in another dude's mattress was never really thought of as a thing, like until the first guy that was like, oh my God, that guy slept in my mattress. And I thought, you care about that? And now that I'm older, I actually think makes a lot of sense. Like, but I think that's a developed awareness thing that might be mid-20s for most guys, where you're like, yeah, I don't want to sleep in your mattress and I don't want you sleeping in mine.
When I was 19, I bought a used mattress, and
I did that. Yeah.
I mean that kind of got me over. That got me over a lot of my icks about it. Is when I moved out for that year, my dad was
It's
like,
not
"We
the
can't take your
mattress,
mattress either." I was like, "Oh, okay." So I just bought a used mattress from like a pretty gross place, and that kind of got me over a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but it's not the mattress though. It's like and it's stupid, but it's like the idea of you just like a man sleeping in another man's bed. You know,
Like putting a face to the
like the mattress
residue,
whatever. It's just like the sheet, the whole thing, the setup. You know, it's just using the pillows. It's not just. Because I did subscribe to that. I don't think like we would go on random trips and somebody was out of town. I'd sleep on the couch before you sleep on somebody's mattress.
So you would sleep on a couch before you slept on somebody else's mattress.
But is that more because you don't like the idea of being where that guy's been, or you don't want to put him in a position of being like, God, Ceruti and his hair's in my bed? Come on.
I think it's both. I think it was like, does this guy want me sleeping in his bed? And then also, do I want to sleep in that guy's bed? I'd rather
both
just sleep
give you a
on
little
this
bit of
couch.
uncomfortability. So you add
Which
it up
I'm
and you're
fully
like,
acknowledging.
looks like the couch.
Yeah, it doesn't make a ton of sense. But like, college Steve. But this wasn't just me. Like, this was what dudes. I don't know. Maybe you guys had different experience. We would find other ways. I mean, dudes. The other thing too is we joke about this all the time. Like when you go to visit like a buddy in college, like no one brought pillows, nobody brought blankets, nobody brought anything. Like I remember sleeping with my wet towel that I used to shower earlier that day as my blanket, and I think I had my head on an Xbox with like a book to prop it up a little bit higher. Like guys
That's
just
the
don't
most
think
savage thing I've ever heard, buddy.
Guys just don't think about sleeping arrangements.
That's completely.
Wait, so an
wet
Xbox
towel
with
as
a
a
book on
blanket.
top was a
Yeah,
better
just to, like,
option
lift my head
than
up a little bit. Yeah, I remember doing that. It wasn't great. 18.
people aren't going to think that's true. I believe you
No, it
because I
was.
don't think you're a
Literally-
liar, but no one's going to believe you.
My friends in the group chat literally talk about it to this day. It's like
You have enough Keystone Lights. I mean, you'll end up in some strange places.
Yeah, maybe.
Hey, I don't have a pillow. You guys have any hard plastic?
I just need
put my
something
head
to
down
prop
on.
my head up.
I would have found the bread in the kitchen before I used an Xbox.
Yeah.
Ceruti's not a liar, but there's going to be a few he's a liar emails. So
I'm
just
cool
telling
with
you
that
right
because
now.
I've got plenty of friends in the group chat that'll back that up.
All right,
We'll have one on.
screenshots.
All right, so we still have a dilemma here with George. So guys sleeping on dudes' mattresses. That doesn't seem the problem. George ordered a mattress online once everybody got back into the house in August. The mattress had not arrived once he moved back in, so he needed to find a solution. Instead of using one of our very comfortable and convenient air mattresses, he decided to borrow a king-size mattress from his fraternity. I'm supposed to exclude the fraternity. I really wish I didn't have to, because during my Pinehurst trip with 14 UVM guys, it dawned on us that I don't think one of us could name a guy that we ever met from this said fraternity, because it was actually a pretty good one too, but it was just sort of odd that I was like, did you ever know anyone there? And we were like, can't name one guy.
That says a lot about those guys then, huh? I'm just kidding.
Well, it was funny because I remember like there was like the normal 3 sororities that sort of rotated around in events with us. And then they went to a formal or like some party at this fraternity's house. And then they came back and all the girls like hated us after they got exposed to like these guys who were just
Awesome.
a little more refined. Back then, I mean, they were loaded and they were just, I don't know, like they were like a mystery, even though we had plenty of like just absolutely loaded guys in my fraternity that would like blow them. I didn't buy my first mattress until I was 27. And then I remember like guys just buying cars and shit. I'm like, you went to a dealership and just bought a car? Like what?
Doesn't compute, right?
Yeah. Like how does that happen? So this other fraternity, like everybody was able to do that all the time. And then I remember this one sorority in particular, they came back and they were like, we just went to an event at some place and like they were so nice and it was catered and there was a shit. And we're like, dude, relax. Here's your red cup. All right. On the dreaded day the mattress he ordered arrived, queen size. He simply moved the borrow mattress into our narrow hallway.
Oh.
George is a great guy. I love him, but holy shit, can he be lazy? We know that once this mattress was moved into the hallway that we were fucked. After countless nights of running into the mattress at night and telling him to move it, my other roommate took it upon himself to move the mattress onto our front porch. The mattress remained on our porch for 2 weeks until a landlord emailed us saying we have to move the mattress or we'd be fined for illegal dumping. I want to be clear that we keep our house in good shape. So to have a complaint like this was not a normal thing. By the way, dude, an email? You guys are tougher than that. Come on. After bringing it up multiple times throughout the day, George and my other roommate moved the mattress into the garage. There it remains to this day. Now we must carefully maneuver our bikes around a giant obstacle. My roommates and I are worried about this. We don't think George realizes this is his responsibility to take care of the mattress and are waiting for us to do something about it. How do we get him to understand he needs to take care of it without making him too upset with us?
Make him upset. He doesn't get it. You're going to have to.
Yeah. George is killing you guys. He's dominating.
No way around this.
George isn't worried about anything. He laughs at your concern. He laughs at your inclination that that you guys think he's going to do anything. Once that thing went to the garage, that is going to be their graduation week. Okay? There's nothing you can now. What could you do? You could call a place, junk removal, maybe $50, flatbed trailer, move it. But that's the loss, like, because then you just did everything for George. He's probably not giving you the $50, though. Based on this return, he should be able to. Nothing like I can't believe you guys aren't going code red, because if this were happening in my friend group, we would have like 6 guys stand around the guy for 30 straight minutes saying, "Move the mattress, move the mattress," and we would push him, be like, "You have to move the mattress. You have to move the mattress." We would try to mentally break him to the point of such frustration he did it or would just cry into a puddle. We would just haze him so fucking bad until he finally did what he was supposed to do. Because I'm telling you right now, I know who George is. I don't know him, but I know he doesn't care about you guys. He doesn't care about this mattress. Your concern is amusing to him.
And if it got to the point of the fine, he wouldn't get why you're asking him to pay it either. So you have to just stop this before it happens.
This feels like one of those situations where you got to fight fire with fire. Could you just start leaving like pizza boxes around his stuff in his room and just trash his stuff so it pisses him off and he kind of gets like what everyone's mad about, and then you're kind of playing for the tie in the end. He's like, all right, I'll move the mattress if you take the pizza box. Now that's creating more work for yourself because you'll probably have to clean up some of that stuff too, but at least it does solve the problem and you kind of feel like you're getting back at him a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know, like putting dishes in front of somebody's door that it's like, it's actually not good. Like even in that second that you do it and you're like, yeah, fucking stuck it to him. It's not good. So I like the idea of like straight up, like just berating him and like, we're doing this now. Come on, get up here, put your shoes on. Let's go. Come on. Like that sort of thing instead of the mind games, just because it sounds like you can't be too subtle. Like even like pizza boxes from like might be too subtle. You might be like, what's this about? Like he might just
put it in his room, put it on his wherever, put it on his desk. Anyway,
I love that, Ceruti, but I mean George does not have a concern for others that you guys do, right. And in the younger years, George is going to win a lot of battles with that approach.
Right.
All right, we got another listener who's wondering if they're becoming me. Probably worth doing one of these every now and then because we get a lot of them. 43 years old, recently divorced, 6'2", 240. Ryan and I have the same hairstylist, beginner gym stats because I just started hitting it heavy the last 6 months. That's an accepted amount of time to prove to you strangers that I'm committed. Scramble golf game is steady off the tee and above average putter. All right. Are you handsome though? As stated above, I'm recently back on the prowl. What a weird fucking world this is. 20 years, after 20 years of being with the same woman, I was completely faithful throughout our marriage because steak and titty night on the guy's annual golf trip doesn't count.
Oh,
whoa! All right. I think we're talking about some steak and maybe a couple of dances. Just grew to different people with different goals. I wish her all the best, despite my random thoughts of bleep her. We could have made it. All right. First date off the dating sites is Friday, so I have no idea what to expect. I upped my male grooming in case this shit is like the movies. Hit me up if you want the update on that, potentially. The reason for this email is, man, I cannot explain to you how free and easy I feel. I have a great job and kept the house and dogs. I make great money in an AFC North city. I seriously have not felt this great in years. Now that I'm living the Russillo motto of I'd rather be alone than annoyed. By the way, the follow-up to the comedian, I guess there was a comedian that said that in like 1993. So it's yours. There you go. I had no idea.
Congrats.
Yeah. Yep. No. Seriously. Like, it wasn't like such an original thought that I thought to anyone even in this lane before, but whatever. Cheers. What should I do next? Although I have access to a river, buying a boat seemed like an awfully large first step. River access is incredible. Good for you. But river navigation, entirely different thing. So might want to get on the charts before you're thinking about launching a vessel. So He wants to know, first dinner at a fancy restaurant solo, movie alone, go up to 3 TVs in the man cave for my sports viewing pleasure. I want to keep the good vibes going. I'm interested to know the gang's thoughts. Look, I'll just tell you right now, movie alone, entry-level shit. Okay? TVs downstairs, entry-level. Fancy dinner by yourself, everybody looking, you reading your phone, taking your time. That's when you'll know if you're built different or not. Okay? Because that's the test. You want to sit at the bar? No. I want to sit at the table.
Absolutely on display. Yes.
What are your specials?
Yep.
What are your specials? Another Sauv? Why not? I spent time in New Zealand recently. You will learn a lot about yourself when you just I don't fucking care. I love eating here. I don't want to go with anyone. And I'm going to read some NBA preview shit on my phone. Hopefully not from a team-sponsored site by some guy whose analysis is based on whether or not he's going to cry. So, yeah, that's what I would say that. And then we can start talking about 15 days in Europe, walking around in your 40s, because that's like the final boss of Alone.
Excited to see what happens to this guy. I got
nothing to add.
No notes.
Yeah, I think this isn't just a hey, I'm feeling good for a couple months here. This is
it's a lifestyle.
I don't even know that you're ever fully ready for it. I mean, I don't know, because he's gonna, what is he completely out on meeting anyone ever? Is he just hey, this is my life, this is the way I'm gonna live it, and I'm happy? Because who knows, you meet some girl and you're gonna. And
right, it could be the post-divorce. This is the pre-workout of divorces, where instead of taking it before, you're getting that pre-workout boost after. You might just be in this glowing mood because now you're experiencing this freedom that you haven't had. How long can you do this is the question.
That's the thing.
And it sounds like you don't want to. And by the way, you shouldn't.
By the way, Ray, hold on. Let me just clear that up. By the way, you shouldn't aspire to get a 40-year run of this. I don't know.
Yeah, because
I would tell everybody, don't do this. To every single person, don't do this. But go ahead.
Well, some people don't want it. I mean, it sounds like he's trying to talk himself into it, being hey, can I be like Russillo? Which I think, be your own man. But I do there is 100% the honeymoon thing, because I don't have a ton of experience in this. But you break up with somebody, you're wow, I could play all this Xbox and hang out with the boys and betting on sports. This is I'm watching all this college football. It's great. And then life happens,
the I can't
somebody
do that.
else.
The I can't do that without a good reason. That's just a tough thing. It's just a part of it. It's a part of it. And just the random text, and it's just hey, we're all going to this thing. What are you doing tonight at 9:00? And it's just the I can't do that for no other reason other than it's just a bad look for me. And so for that to go away, I think is probably pretty awesome for maybe up to a year. I think even up to and around a year, you're this is still great. And then I think, start feeling the pangs of loneliness.
Yeah, I think we nailed it. All right.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Give us an update in 3 months.
He's already on the dating apps. He doesn't want to be alone. He shouldn't be alone. He's also in an AFC North city. So,
getting cold.
Cincinnati, Cleveland,
getting cold.
Pittsburgh.
I was just in Cleveland.
Baltimore.
Love Cleveland.
Did you want to be single there for the rest of your life?
No. Did go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, though. Not where you want to meet. I don't think that's not where you want to meet girls, but
it's a great Irish bar right by the Quicken Loans there.
All right. Thanks to Wargon. Thanks to Kyle. Thanks to Ceruti. The Ryen Russillo podcast on YouTube. And, of course, Ringer Sponsor.